Awesome job. We've got some buttons, and as we're clicking on them, we change our view. I think now it's a great time to work on the select. And there are a few steps to get the select working where we can sort our products. Now, the first one will be setting up the controlled input. So I would want to have some kind of value in the state. And then as I'm clicking on the select, of course, I'll change that value. And the second thing is going to be setting up the use effect that runs every time we change this state value. And then, of course, we'll sort our products, which, of course, at the moment are all our products, but eventually it will depend on the filters as well. So let's start by setting up that state value. So it's not going to be in the filter reducer, but in the filter context, I'm going to start by setting up a value with the name of sort. Now, if you name it differently, just keep in mind to use the same name. And now I would need to go with some kind of default value, and that default value needs to match to one of the options. So in my case, the options that I have are price lowest, price highest, name A to Z, and name Z. So just make sure that if you're going with different value, that it matches one of the values in the option element. So in my case, I'm going to go with price lowest. So we'll just set it up as price and then hyphen and then lowest. So that's going to be my sort. Now remember, for controlled input, there were two things. First of all, there was the state value, and the second one was the function that we run every time there's a change in the input, correct? So in this case, I'm going to name this update and sort, and I'm going to be looking for that event object. So in this case, it's going to be extremely important. And for the time being, I would just want to set up two things: name, which is going to be equal to event target and the name, because remember, once we add this update sort on our select, event target points to the select input, and I can get few things out of it. In my case, I'm going to be looking for the name, which is going to be sort. And then the second thing is going to be the value. So what is the actual value, the option that the user is choosing? So that will be equal to const and then value. And then this is going to be equal to event target. And of course, it is sitting in the value. Now we need to pass this down. So say update sort as well as the sort. But of course, sort we're already passing in the state. And then in the sort, of course, we would want to access both of them. So let's do that. I'm just going to make sure that I access sort and update sort. So let's scroll up. We're looking for sort and update sort every time we're changing the value. And then we'll scroll down again. And in this case, where we have the select, first of all, as far as the value, I'll pass in the sort. So this is the value that is coming from the state, which in my case, again, is going to be price lowest, correct? So I'll set it equal to sort. And then on change will be equal to my update and then sort. And for now, let's just see what is the result. So I'm going to navigate to the bigger screen. And remember, we're console logging some values here. So once you click, check it out. There's going to be two things. By the way, I don't know why it didn't happen. Maybe there's some kind of mess up here. And again, nothing is happening. That's interesting. So I update sort that is added on the select. I grabbed it over here. Let me just double check. Maybe my naming wasn't correct. And of course, yeah, I'm not console logging. That's why nothing is happening. So name and value. My apologies. I said I'm going to console log, and of course, I forgot about it. So I have my price, which at the moment is lowest. But then check it out. Once you click, you get two values back. You get sort, and then you get the price highest. So this is the value, meaning this is what the user selected, and this is the name of the input. Now I have to be honest with you. In this case, if we take a look at the sort, it doesn't really matter. So the name here is sort, but since there's only one property in my state, so the name here is of course sort, it doesn't matter. I know that I'm just looking for the value. Now, the reason why I showed you this one, because later when we work with filters, it is going to matter because there's going to be multiple properties. In this case, we only have one select and the value in the state is just sort. But you'll see in the filters where it is extremely important that you have the same name as you have in the state. In this case, to tell you honestly, we only care about the value. But I will leave this one and I'll say just for demonstration or something along those lines, for demonstration here, and I'll comment this out. So yes, I said that we need to have a name, but this was just to showcase what is going to be the name, because later with filters, it's going to be extremely important. In this case, we only care about the value. And now, of course, every time I do something with my select, I would want to update my state, correct? I would want to change this value, the sort one, because at the moment it is hard coded as price lowest. And in order to do that, we would need to dispatch an action, correct? So that's why in the filter context, we'll say that there's going to be an action by the name of update sort. So we just go with dispatch. And then, of course, this action is already imported. I'm not going to do the whole song and dance where we're getting from. Hopefully it is already clear by now. So we have variable coming from the actions and the name is update and then sort. Now, as far as the payload, I would want to pass in the value. So whatever option I have selected, I would want to pass this in. Now, again, when I say value, we need to understand that each option has the value attribute. And here I have some kind of text. And in order to access it, I'm using event target and then that value. So whatever string I am getting back, I would want to pass it in as a payload. So say payload is equal to the value. And now, of course, in my reducer, I would want to handle that because at the moment, of course, if we'll click, we should get a big fat error because we're not handling that in our reducer. So let's do that. We're going to navigate to the reducer. And inside of the reducer, of course, we would want to check for that particular action. I have one for grid view, one for list view. Awesome. And now I'd want one for update state. So then we go with action and then type is equal to update and sort. Again, we're importing that variable from the actions. And then, of course, I would want to change the state value, the sort state value, depending on what is the string that is coming back. By default, it's going to be price lowest. But then as we're clicking on input, of course, it will change. So in here we go with return. Again, we return all the properties untouched in the state. And then we just change the sort. And sort will be equal to our action and then payload. So now, of course, I can navigate to the big screen because it's going to be easier to see in my components. I have my filter one and I have my reducer. And notice here, by default, this is price lowest. And then, of course, as I'm clicking, notice, now this is going to be price highest. Then we'll have A to Z and then Z to A.